Thank you, General Waldhauser. Just less than a month ago, Senators Ernst, Rounds, and Sullivan and I spent quite a bit of time in the South China Sea, witnessing firsthand what China is doing there. They talk about reclaiming land, and I suggest it's not reclaiming land because there's no land to reclaim. It's creating land. And while they've been doing this for some time, it's kind of gone unnoticed. They're up now to over 3,000 acres that they have created, all staffed with nothing but military stuff in there. So obviously, it concerns a lot of people, and a lot of people in the region. In fact, a lot of our allies in the region look at China as someone more significant than we are because they don't see that type of thing from us. Now, I know this is not your AOR, General Waldhauser, but recently, and you stated in your opening statement, their request for a presence in Djibouti. This is very much of a concern. Djibouti is where we've had our Marines for quite some time. It's an area that has control over the entrance in the Red Sea and ultimately the Suez Canal. So I'm very much concerned about this, and you are too. You said at the House Armed Services last week, this is your quote, you said, if the Chinese took over that port, then the consequences could be significant. Well, if China is successful in taking over the port of Djibouti, could they use their control to threaten U.S. access and our broader freedom of navigation interests in that region, like the Red Sea and Suez Canal?
Senator Inhofe, thank you very much for the question. Although I'm not an expert on port operations, I can tell you a few things about Djibouti that may lend some context to the question. Within the confines of the Djibouti port, there are 5 activities, 2 of which are run by the Chinese. Obviously, they're Chinese naval port for the facility there, and then they have control over what's called a multi-purpose port, which essentially offloads containers. There are 3 other pieces to the port, one of which is a fuel pier, which the Emirati company owns. Then there's this container pier, which is what has been discussed about the Djiboutian takeover in the past couple of weeks. And then there is what's called an old port, where our ships also berth in order to pick up supplies and the like. The Djiboutians annulled a contract that they had with the Dubai Ports World here last week, and they essentially took control of that port. In discussions with our key leadership in the area and with the Secretary of State who was there this past week, the Djiboutians indicated that they will run that port for the next 6 months and then determine, where they will go in terms of sale or in terms of whether they'll keep control of that port. The container port, as I described, basically all of the containers that comes through there in Djibouti, whether it's spare parts, whether it's provisions, anything that comes in Djibouti comes through that port. So that port is used quite a bit. We also use the fuel port quite a bit. Between October of 16 and October of 17, there were 115 ships that came in there to refuel. The fuel also goes to the port or to the base in Djibouti to refuel airplanes and the like.
So that is a significant area there. And
it is.
I'm running out of time here, but that's what I wanted to get into the record. One of the areas that, in fact, it was Admiral Harris that called this to our attention. In some of the areas where we've done this IMET program, which I've always been very fond of, and I think both of you have, they're seeing that China is going after our IMET program. Actually, and now that's in that area. Are you seeing any of this in Africa, on the continent of Africa? Because we have worked extensively on the IMET program down there.
So it's unclear. It's difficult to get data in terms of China and the IMET program in Africa. On average, the National Defense University in China graduates about 100 or so foreign students a year, some of whom are obviously from Africa. They usually come from about 70 or so countries. Just by the way, we in the United States, we have about 850 officers from China who go through, from Africa, who go through various programs, National Defense University, seminars and the like, at a cost of about $22 million.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, and that's good. Let me do this. For the record, because there's not time to do it now, General Waldhauser, I want you to kind of outline the resources. Because when we built AFRICOM, it was done without resources, and we know who we depend on in cases when we need those resources. So I'd like to get in writing some detail on that. And General Votel, I know that you have some still concerns about China and the efforts that you're seeing in China to project their influence in your AOR. Any comments you want to make about your AOR?
Well, Senator Inhofe, the thing that I would just highlight is that the activities in Djibouti are not only important to AFRICOM, they're extraordinarily important to CENTCOM. This is certainly one of the key areas where we have strong cooperation and collaboration across our geographic combatant command areas here. So I certainly share General Waldhauser's concerns about what is playing out in Djibouti.
Yeah, in your written statement, you also gave some detail on that, and you do make a comment. While Beijing claims that both locations support peacekeeping and humanitarian operations, and you go on, I don't know how many people believe that, but it's a great concern to this committee.